Hey, it's Dane Scott along with Pocket Frog. Welcome once again to Studio Takes. You know, we charge all different things for our voiceovers. It kind of depends on the market, what the traffic will bear, and what you can put up with. What you're willing to work for and not work for, that's a very personal thing. But let me talk about situations where maybe it's okay to work really cheap. Coming up next.
Studio Takes. Real help for the aspiring voiceover artist and Fiverr entrepreneur.
This is an interesting subject, and it's one that people can kind of get a little excited about. It depends on your background and your own personal expectations, as I said earlier. But we're going to get into it in just a second. Let me mention that I would strongly encourage you to stick around till the end of today's Studio Takes, because I'm going to give you a nice discount and also a $49.95 head slapper for free by ordering a gig doctor session with me during the month of July 2021 through my Fiverr gig, because I've just launched that, and it helps me out. So I'm going to give you a nice break in return. So stick around for that at the end. All right, well, this whole thing of, how much should I expect to be paid for voiceovers gets people, it hits them where they live. So you'll see in the groups and forums and so forth, some very animated discussions, sometimes almost abusive discussions when it gets into this subject. Traditionally, and I come from a little more of a traditional background in voiceovers, they paid a lot of money. And so when I first, I had actually gotten out of doing voiceovers regularly because I got myself highly involved in a radio automation system I designed. And so I spent 20 years on that, really, basically. So then when I came back into it, it was a little different world. I was still regularly, or let's say routinely, doing some voiceovers for studios, for agencies, where I would travel to the studios and I would record there. And they still paid, the money that I was used to. But when I thought, I'd really like to start doing more with voiceovers again than I used to, as I started to kind of work my way out of doing the radio automation thing, I thought, how's it done these days? There's got to be a lot more that's done on the internet than it used to be. And so I started looking into it, and I found this course about Fiverr, and I, took the course, and I thought, I could do that. But at the same time, it was like, whoa, it doesn't look like they charge much for their voiceovers on there. And so I felt like I was, they talk about it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. Well, I felt a little like the camel trying to go through the eye of the needle to enter into doing voiceovers for a place that was called Fiverr, $5 voiceovers. Oh, boy, I don't know about that. Okay. But when I watched the course, I kind of got a sense that the whole Fiverr thing is more of just kind of an entry point, and that you don't have to necessarily expect that this is where you either are going to start, though it's okay if you start there, or that that's where you're going to end up. So right now, I'd say my average sale on Fiverr is maybe about $83 and takes me on average maybe 10 minutes, maybe in some cases 15. So, that's pretty good money. If you can make $240, $250 an hour doing voiceovers, doing anything, that's good money. And it's more than I was averaging, back when I was doing voiceovers for more money, because there weren't as many of them. So there are all kinds of arguments you can make about, which way should you go and how much should you get paid? And this is all just a preamble that's only kind of related to what I wanted to talk about. So bear with me here. The point is, you can come into voiceovers with all kinds of different expectations as to what you want to make. And where you end up is not where you start out. And so it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of a game plan to say, at this stage, what are my expectations of income versus what are my expectations as to how I'm building my business or developing my abilities? And so for that reason, I don't think there is one right answer that says you should always get union scale or you should always go with the national rate table. As to what you should charge, that you should always only go through agencies or talent agents, or whether you should use pay-to-play sites. All of it is fair game. And because of the fact that I do come from the traditional background, I understand the traditional mindset and I respect it, but at the same time, I'm willing to look at the realities of today and to do what I need to do in order to get my voice in front of people and to make money. If I can make money, I really personally don't care. If someone wants to say, well, it's not traditional or it's not legitimate or whatever it is, as long as I'm working honestly and I'm doing my work and I'm getting the pay that I am hoping for or expect, I'm good. All right. Again, we're still kind of in the preamble stages here. So let's take it to the next level now. The other thing that I wanted to say about this is that, because of the fact that you may be at an early stage in your voiceover career, your expectations may not be, that you're going to either be able to or be asked to do higher paid jobs. And for that reason, I don't think that there's anything wrong with taking the mindset of an intern or, someone that is an apprentice almost, An apprentice works for free, basically, or in a lot of cases they do. They work for free in exchange for the information that they're getting or the training that they're receiving. Whether it's someone that worked in a cobbler shop years ago or, a blacksmith or a chimney sweep or, whatever the job was, the pay you were getting was the experience you were getting. And so I really believe that it is okay, especially early on in your career, to work for very little money or even free. When I went to broadcast school, it cost me, at that time, it'd be more now, but it cost $3,000 for 1 year. For me to do voiceovers, basically I was paying them to do voiceovers, if you want to think about it that way. I was learning how to deliver. So I was paying out. Okay. You, at this point, maybe you're saying, okay, look, another good example is coaching. Okay. Coaching is a perfect example of where, okay, you're doing voiceovers and you're paying someone else to listen to them and to give you critique and to help you develop. So you're spending money to do voiceovers. If you can come to the point where, okay, you've developed yourself far enough along that you can do some pretty good sounding stuff, or at least good enough stuff that somebody might want to listen to, maybe at that stage you even do some volunteer work. Maybe you do some voiceovers for your local community theater or you read for the blind. You're developing your skills. You're getting yourself farther along the path. Maybe you, if you're on Fiverr, you are willing to even take a look at some of these, what almost seem like ridiculous offers that show up in buyer requests where for $5 they're asking you to do 1,000 words or whatever it is. And you go, well, I'm not going to make much on that. It's going to be a lot of work, but what are you gaining from it? Can you still kind of think of yourself as an apprentice at this point? Someone that's still learning your trade. And if they are willing to pay you even a little bit at this point for you to have the opportunity to basically kind of school yourself on how to improve and how to get better at what you're doing, just the practice, just the time spent in practice that you get from doing, say, an audiobook for $50 per finished hour. That'd be another good example. Okay, $50 per finished hour is not much for an audiobook, and it is a lot of work to do a whole hour of narration for an audiobook because you have to proof it and so forth. But think about the experience you're getting here. If you're not really super skilled yet, even being able to get paid at all, to do a voiceover is kind of a privilege. And the other part of it is, do you love what you're doing? When I first went on to Fiverr, I set up my $5 gig. I thought, what the heck, we'll give it a try. My strategy would be, okay, I'm going to build myself up on Fiverr and eventually increase my pricing and I'll work my way up like that. And that's what I did. But when I first started out, I can still remember the day that little notification popped up on my laptop. I was out in the gazebo out in the yard, and on the laptop, this popped up and it said, order. And it was like, whee, this is fun. Okay, so I ran into the studio and I recorded it right then and sent it. It was like, I can't wait. This is really exciting. So I was all excited about a $5 order. Why? Because it was like, oh, cool, this actually works. That was number one. And number two, I happen to love doing voiceovers. In another few minutes here, I'm wrapping this out kind of fast during the half hour prior to an appointment that I have with a studio in nearby Green Bay, Wisconsin over Skype with an old buddy of mine that I've been doing voiceovers with for 20-some years, Carl Romy, very good guy. And so I'm just waiting for that to come up here. And in the meanwhile, I have a chance to talk to you. But it's all exciting. It's all fun. I mean, if you really love doing voiceovers, Carl and I have looked across the glass at each other when I've been down at his studio and shaken our heads and just laughed and said, I can't believe we're getting paid to do this. And I think that you can kind of take that attitude. I can't believe I'm getting paid anything to do this. This is really fun. Granted, it can be work, especially when it's an audiobook, but just keep thinking about the benefit that you're getting from it. And especially when you're early in the process, don't worry too much about trying to, make really a lot of money right away. Just, if you were practicing, you would be, just practicing on your own, you'd be getting zero. So if you're getting more than zero, you're money ahead when you're still developing your skills and maybe you're not all that marketable yet. So consider whether there might be situations where, in your own case, it might make sense to get paid to practice. And that's our Studio Takes for today. Now, I did promise that I was going to give you a special deal here. So you can save $10 on a Gig Doctor session and get a $49.95 head slapper for free. So altogether, it's going to be like less than half price for you to get a Gig Doctor through my Fiverr gig, because I really want people to have a chance to see that service on Fiverr. The ones that have been joining me on it so far have helped me to boost my rankings for that new Fiverr gig. And guess what? I'm actually on the first page, first position for some searches related to what the Gig Doctor offers now. So thank you to everybody who has done that for me so far. And my favor back to you is to give you that special discount and the big bonus. So if you go to the link that I'm sharing along with this video /podcast, then that will take you right to the Fiverr gig, and you'll have a chance to check that out. Now, before we wrap it up today, I just want to give you one thing that, if you want to stick around for, please do. This is a group of testimonials from people that have done the Gig Doctor thing, and I am so grateful to all of them. I think you'll see that they just have good hearts as you're watching the testimonials here. But I just put together this kind of an extended little promo video, and you can check that out. I'm Dane Scott, the Gig Doctor, here on Fiverr. As a voiceover guy, I've done hundreds of thousands of dollars in business on Fiverr. And in the process, I've gone through all the same things you have, the learning curve, the occasional frustrations, and initially wondering what I was doing wrong. But I also know at this point a lot of what it takes to get found on Fiverr. Not only that, but to make sales. And that's the idea behind my Gig Doctor service. I've helped a lot of people already to succeed on Fiverr, and now I'd like to help you too. Let's hear from a few of the people I've worked with.
Dane is a super good guy. Trust me. 1 hour session with him, and my gig made it to the first page.
He's a gentleman, very caring, and he goes above and beyond every single time.
I had a great session, and right away gave me a couple of ideas on how to get noticed. My impressions went from under 100 to up over 2,000.
He comes up with so many ideas, all of which I'm putting into action as we speak.
I had a goal that I set for myself. I wanted things to take off. I wanted to really make this my business. So I reached out to Dane, the Gig Doctor.
In the 4 days since I worked with the Gig Doctor, my impressions have gone from single digits to triple digits. He's just that smart.
He has the technical expertise, you can trust him, and he has a heart of service.
Things really picked up. By June 14th, I went to level 1 seller, and I had my first almost $1,000 month.
In my last Gig Doctor session with Dane, I got new information, some fresh insights and tips that I'm using right now even as we speak.
When I started selling on Fiverr, I only sold 2 gigs in 2 months. The week after my session with the Gig Doctor, I sold 3. I've been averaging about 3 to 4 sales a week since then.
Hi, this is Ricky DB, and thank you so much, Dane, for helping me set up my description, my pricing, and best of all, my confidence in making my gig the best it can be.
And here we are in the month of July after my gig doctor session, and this will be a well over $1,000 month.
I was just very impressed with how he handled everything, how much he cares about your gig.
Dane knows what he's doing. That's why he's the gig doctor.
And with his success rate on Fiverr, that's a pretty good thing.
Dane the Gig Doctor can help you do this.
But you really have to stand out in order to make that difference. And let me tell you, if you want to stand out, reach out to the gig doctor and he'll make you shine.
Work with him.
Use the Gig Doctor. You'll be glad you did.
Highly recommend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dane.
Thanks, Dane.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dane.
Work with him. And he is going to work with you.
All right, so once again, if you just hit the link there that's in the shared notes that accompany this podcast and YouTube video, you can get the special deal, and let's get together during the month of July 2021 and make it happen. Thank you. Talk to you next time.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, I think.
Hello, cutie pie.
Until I heard the voice, I'd never done a crazy thing in my whole life.
Goodbye.